words of the prophets are written on subways' walls, yeah? It's the sound of silence. It now has a voice. And you are the voice of the sound of silence. It speaks from the deepest part of your being. We said last week that we are here to listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. The church is the template of the Holy Spirit. God dwells in you as you. We live in powerful times right now, filled with potential and possibility for our own illumination and awakening. God can't get here any other way except through you and I. We are the channels and vehicles through which the Spirit is made known on earth. And so in this 2012 time that you signed up and said, I want to be there in 2012. I'm going to have a wife and a job or a kid or no kids and no wife, but I'm going to be there on that planet for 2012 during the great shift that's happening now. And it's happened before, by the way, and we've been here before as well for it. And now we are entering it again. And I love when someone hands me a book. Who gave me this book? I think Patty Howe did, didn't you, Patty? Patty goes, you might like this book, Field of Compassion, How the New Cosmology is Transforming Spiritual Life. There's 25 people in the book study group that are working with this book now. And I picked it up and I went, oh my God. Thank you. You know, Renee, when you get a book that says it again in a way that sounds new and fresh and engages and awakens you. So we're going to be studying this book along with the book club. I'll be going over it Wednesday night as well for however long it takes. It's amazing, incredible material. And we ordered 20 copies. They're not here today. How many, beside the 25 that already have a copy, think they're going to want a copy of the book? Oh boy. Okay, so we'll hold with 20. We had about 10 at the last service. I know maybe we can get a few more, but we can get them quickly. Didn't come in for this time. From this particular wonderful, incredible beginning, where I actually got the title for the talk, A Whale of a Tale. It always starts with a story, doesn't it? Nothing like a good story. One of the responsibilities of Nat Shears, a landscaper working at a housing complex on Cape Cod, is to check the piers at the adjacent beach for storm damage. One morning, he was doing just that when he spotted a 10-foot pilot whale coming towards shore. He watched for a moment. He then saw a second whale, and then a third. Each one was headed for land. He was stunned at first. Nat watched the approach of the whales with awe. Then his concern took over. This is not unusual for whales to beach themselves on Cape Cod. Nat knew that this was the probable intent of these huge, gentle creatures. He summoned a neighbor who ran to call the National Seashore Service. So he did step number one, he called for help. Knowing that the whales were coming so fast, they were probably on the beach before he could arrive, Nat quickly, this is good now, he threw off his shoes and his socks, I won't do that. He rolled up his pant legs, and I won't do that either, and waded out in the direction of the first whale. He caught up with it about waist deep in water on a sandbar. The whale was thrashing about, and he could see cuts on the body from its batter with the sand. Moved solely by instinct, Nat placed his hands on the whale and held him there. The thrashing stopped. The whale became completely still. Nat said in that moment, he became aware that this was the whale's first encounter with a human species. He also knew that both human and whale were operating on instinct, each trusting the other in an encounter that neither had experienced before. After the whale had grown calm, Nat then gently turned it around and pointed it away from the shore. The whale began to swim back out to sea. Losing no time, he then approached the second whale. Again, he simply placed his hands on the creature. Its thrashing stopped. And once the second whale grew still, he went for the third whale. By this time, the National Seashore Service had arrived and helped him turn the third whale around. Frequently, it's been told that whales that threaten to beach themselves are rescued and then often come to shore somewhere else further down, another location. This does not seem to be the case. For whatever reason, the whales return to their natural habitat without further incident. And although there's no proof of this, I think it was their encounter with Nat's energy and his willingness to simply hold them in their travail have made the difference. This is our story. We are dealing with whale-faced issues and tissues right now. The political unrest in our country, the division, the environmental crisis, the economic crisis, all these things that are going on seem unsurmountable. What are we going to do about all of this? It's so big, it's so huge. How can we possibly take this on? So much is going on now. So much of our own unconsciousness is coming up on the shore of our life, and it's begging for us to take notice of what's going on. And what I notice in myself, it doesn't do any good to heap blame, shame, and disdain upon the very institutions that were created to be part of our highest values. It doesn't do any good to do that, but I have a master's degree in wanting to. Blame other people, blame the politicians, blame the situation on somebody other than me. If they would just get this together, then we'd have it together. It's them, it's them, it's them. No, it's me, it's me, it's me. What's lapping up on the shores of our life right now are our individual and collective shadow side. And when we do that work with our own shadow side, we realize it doesn't do any good to blame anyone outside of ourselves for what's going on. We begin to take that ownership of bringing the light into our own being. I'm thinking of Dr. Martin Luther King and the times that we all went through. How many were around when he was alive? I was here. I remember watching it on not my widescreen TV, my little teeny tiny TV screen. And people were being beaten up and shot on the streets. Vietnam War was going on. My friends were dying. My number was up on the lottery. You know, time seemed so astronomically important at that moment. And yet they were just setting the stage for what we would get ready for what was to come. What did Martin Luther King do? He went up to the mountaintop. Yes, he opened up his crown chakra. And he let the energy of spirit descend upon him like a dove and fill the body of Christ with awakening energy. And then he led people out of the darkness into the light. You and I, in our own small, everyday way, are being called upon to do the same thing. And in this particular story, man, it just popped off the page. We are given the blueprint for 5 things we can do today to help us do that. But what's the first thing that you notice he did? He called for help. Please understand, you're not in this alone. When you're facing some big, huge challenge that's come ashore in your life, don't say, what am I going to do? Ask, how can I be helped? I need help. No one can call upon God's teachers in vain, nor is there anyone of whom they're not aware. So whoever you believe God to be, he, she, or it, Jesus, Buddha, Christ of consciousness, whoever, Mother Mary, whoever connects with you, ask for their help. That's the first thing he did. But then you just don't sit around and go, okay, God, now go ahead and do something. No, it says next, he did what? He rolled up his pant legs like this. And he did what? He took off his shoes, his old understanding. He rolled up his sleeves and he got right into the middle of a situation. And he let his instinct be his guide. We know what to do. All of us do. We pretend we don't know, but we know what we should be doing. And he steps into what is the unknown situation when you're facing a really big challenge. You may not know what to do, but if you ask for help and then go into the situation and meet the challenge, you'll be told what to do. And then he took his hands, and I love the Diksha of this energy, the prayer energy, put his hands on top of the head of this huge creature, and he just held presence. He calmed down, followed his breath. When you're facing a difficult situation or a challenge, it's best just to keep breathing and listen to the sounds of silence. Become quiet and still. And once he calmed down, once you calm down, when you're having a fight with her or him about this or that or the other thing, if someone calms down, it changes, doesn't it, Mark? If Mark chooses to get quiet and still, and amazing, if Maureen chooses to get quiet and still, if Letitia chooses to not engage in the tug of war and just be present in that moment, an energy comes that's greater than what was there before. A quiet happens when you face the challenge and you just hold presence with it. That's all. Every morning when I meditate and I get up and I'm all shook up about this or that, some other delusional states of mind I'm in, if I just go and take my seat, wade into the moment, put my moment on my breath and just follow it in and out. The calming down makes all the difference in the world. And then there's an imparting. That's the third step, imparting. The divine energy imparts through you, a third or fourth, I forget which one. It moves through you. It's like a divine grace that's in you but greater than you. And then it does what it needs to do in that moment, because you're now a vehicle for it, a channel for it. You don't have all the answers, but you waded into the situation, you've met the challenge, you've held presence, and then the imparting energy of the divine within you does its work through you. And then you turn the energy around and you give it a little push. And then you go, bye-bye, go home, and then you don't stand there judging it. Well, you're going in the wrong direction. Let me tell you a thing about what you've been doing here. I already gave you your healing and blessing. I think you should be doing this or that. You let it go. You have done your part. And now whatever that person, being, situation needs to do, it will be directed and guided in its own way now. You have showed up for your part. That's the healing formula for what we're being called upon to do now on the planet. As we face those issues and tissues within ourselves. All acts of transformation on a huge scale begin with someone taking an incredible risk, an act of courage on a small scale to do that. I'm thinking about Rosa Parks when she went and sat on that bus. Wow! Talk about wading into a situation. But she knew she belonged there. And that single act of courage moved energy in a new direction. That wasn't a top-down decision. Everybody go now and do something courageous. She did something courageous. Set a new direction so others could get caught in the movement, and that's how change always happens. My dad, Alvin, working for the Woolworth Company, going there to sell plastics to them, said he remembers when the first group of African-American people went into a lunch counter at Woolworth's, at the soda fountain, and sat there and waited to be served because they knew they deserved to be there. You talk about wading into unknown territory. But they'd started a whole movement from a simple act of courage. Mahatma Gandhi went down to the ocean and said, this salt, it belongs to everybody. And he walked and he got the salt and changed a way in which the whole world looks at the power each person has to make a difference in their life. You and I have that power as well, too. And when we get caught up in that kind of movement and energy, well, then other people get caught up in it as well. It's not going to happen from the top down. It's not going to happen when another party gets in line. It's going to happen when we get in alignment with who we are. The 99% Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street movement. You say, well, it kind of died out. It had its thing. It hasn't died out. Do you know what the politicians are talking about now? Well, the 99% and the 1%, because the 99% of the people who are now speaking up and not afraid to take courageous acts that now become the conversation of what we need to look at. And now we're beginning to see how powerful we can be. A couple of guys on a computer typing out some keys about, I'm getting tired of being taken over by a small minority of people who are at the top. I think we should all get together and do something. And that's how it began, with a small little movement. I'm telling you, the movement's getting larger because we're seeing what the real issues and tissues are. And when a daring person decides to do something, it makes all the difference in the world. This is how we practice the transformation that's going on now on this planet. One day, one moment, one breath, one action at a time. And it happens in huge ways, and it happens in small ways. And we mostly deal with the small, everyday things. I like this so much when I put it up on the board on Wednesday night. I wanted to share it again. It comes from Donna McCover. Again, choosing in simple little acts to make a difference. Let's give our attention to the simple things that give us pleasure with the same fervor we give to the complex things that drive us all crazy. And we know how easily we get driven crazy, right? So we come back to the simple things that give us pleasure, the simple choices that we make, and we become aware of what those choices are. I explained some of this to the people on Wednesday night, and I have a conclusion to the illusion I lost my car keys on Wednesday night. Very frustrating. And particularly today when you have car keys and the key to replace it is like, what, $350 for a new car key. So it's kind of like I'm getting ready for class. I'm pretty mindful, putting my little beads on to go get a blessing. And it's about 20 after 6. Class starts at 7. And so it's like, I can't find my keys. I wonder where my keys are. And so I can't find my keys. And it's a little minnow. It all starts off real small. You know, little teeny minnow. You know, I'm going, I really can't find my keys. I don't know where my keys are. I start unzipping things and opening up doors and pulling out drawers and doing all this kind of stuff. And now it's becoming a flounder. It's still on the bottom. It's there. It's, you know, it's getting bigger. And then it becomes a tuna fish, you know, real nice big tuna. And pretty soon I'm ready to just abandon ship, you know, go down with the whale. You know, it's a huge issue now. And I'm getting all caught up. And it's about 20 minutes to 7. Got to come to my class at 7 o'clock. And Maureen, gracious, beautiful Maureen, she walks up to me and just, calm down. You gotta go be the light of the world in a few minutes. It's gonna be all right. I am gonna help you find those car keys. But for right now, we really need to get to class right now, okay? And I went, I felt totally settled. Just one touch, one breath, one non-impatient move in traffic, one letting somebody in, and just everything gets released. And I went, yeah, she's right. And the energy gets imparted to you, and I stood up and went to the church. It wasn't over. I started pulling out drawers. I went to the lost and found. I asked Sonny Pennington, did you find my keys at your house? And finally, by about the 5th oneness blessing that I got, it finally was gone. And I realized that, nothing in spirit can be lost or stolen. God knows where the keys to the present moment are. And they're not in my obsessing about it. So I went home, and Maureen then was so sweet. She sat down with me, and we're all filled with the blessing now, consciousness. She rolls up her sleeves and goes, okay, where were you when you lost the keys? And she went with me down the whole path, knows me so well, 41 years together. And she goes, well, what was going on Monday night? You had the keys on Monday because you drove home from the gym. I know you had the keys. And I said, well, I came home, and I'd gone to Costco, and you were mad at me because I went to Costco without you. But what I couldn't tell you was I went because I needed to get flowers for your birthday that I wanted to surprise you with on Tuesday morning. And she goes, well, where did you put the flowers when you hid them from me? And I said, well, we went out to the closet where the stuff is in the garage, opened them up, and I said, I put them right in that little bucket right there. And Maureen goes, well, here's your keys. So, you know, to deal with the pleasure of the moment. The kingdom had been found. In that moment, there it was. The keys were there. The keys will get lost again, my friends. But you have the key to the kingdom of heaven. And it's not always in the big, huge things, but in the small, conscious acts that you make every day. You feed into what's going to be called the morphic field of energy. That's just huge, that other people can feed into as well. And it happens choice by choice, moment by moment. Not so much with the big things, but with the small, everyday things you choose to do. It does make a difference, and it absolutely shifts consciousness. Because it's not all about the whales coming up on shore and beaching themselves, and oh my God, look at the consequences of what we've been doing. It's also about the whales breaching. You know, the magnificence of the moment. Yeah, that's what we're here to discover and uncover, and feel that bigness of what happens when we remember who we are. So this is about 3 years ago. We're on a boat with Xander and a bunch of 2 to 5-year-olds who are celebrating the end of the year for their birthday celebration, the celebration of the end of the school year. And we're on this boat, this catamaran, to go whale watching. 25 little kids and all the mothers and dads. It's a wonderful time. And we get on the boat, the captain and the first mate say, you know, we have not seen a whale for 2 weeks. I don't know where they are, but they are not anywhere around here. And the truth is, if we don't find a whale today, you know, we have a guarantee, we'll take you out again. And I went, well, you know, it's not such a bad day. No day is a bad day in Hawaii. It's 82 degrees out, the wind is just, the water's clear and beautiful. Whale or not to whale, who cares? Wow. And we're out there, and the kids, the 25 of them, they're sitting in the front of the boat, the catamaran, and they're singing the whale song. It's only 2 to 5-year-olds can sing a song calling for the whales to come. I'm not lying to you, Maureen will tell you about this one. 12 minutes later, after they got done singing their song, right in the middle of it, that wonderful, incredible, about 15 yards out, that sound, when you hear it. That blowhole of a sound, you even could smell it in the nostrils. It's a whale. It's a whale. It was a mama. She'd just come up. She's looking up and she's looking at all the mamas on the boat. There's a whole bunch of them on there. Interspecies communication. And right behind her, a baby comes up. And the baby, the 40-foot, 25-foot baby comes up and is looking at the kids. And I'm telling you, there is this moment that's going on that's timeless and ageless connection that happens right there, right now. Everybody went over to the side of the boat, and the boat goes like this. You know how that is. And we screamed and yelled, and about 4 or 5 other whales joined us. About as good as it gets. Not over yet, though. We're on our way, and we're leaving now, and we're going back to port. The sun's about to set pretty soon. And the kids are, again, in the front, the catamaran, and that little jumpy thing that they all sit on. And they're singing the whale song one more time as we go in. And all of a sudden, the captain, the boat's planing, he backs off. The bow comes down. I'm not lying to you, Maureen will confirm this. Up in front of us, oh, Brad, right about where you are, was that close? This huge male pilot whale comes up like this, just right in front of the boat. He wasn't preaching, he just came up and did that, you know, the arc that they do? And I swear to you, he was looking right at the children, and he was winking. You see that now? That's God. God is winking at you. Are you seeing? All day long, God winks. Oh, you think it's about this issue and tissue. You think it's about this situation you're involved with. You think it's about what he or she isn't giving you. You think it's about the government. You think it's about your financial crisis. It's about waking up. Are you ready to take that assignment on? Are you? Are you? Are you? Yes, we are. We're ready. So let me get my glasses. Thank you, Maureen. She says, and it's incredible, we're only on page 2 of the introduction. That's how good this book is. Each one of us, page 9, excuse me, each one of us stands on the shore, on the cusp of the unknown and the known. Each one of us encounters systems that have strayed off course. Each of us has the capacity and power to risk an encounter that brings peace and calm, healing and love. As we commit and remain faithful to the task at hand, we will begin to notice that we are not alone on the shore. Now I want you to look now. Look, please, to the left. Come on, look to the left. Look to the right. Look at this now. All along the shoreline, others are there, equally committed to risk and rescue, and faithful amidst the present crisis. Not only do we resonate with care and compassion, others are doing it as well. That's important to know that you're not alone. And together, we are becoming a force to be reckoned with. One that not only changes the direction of the whales, but one that affects transformation, that gives life to the whole of our creation. That's how powerful we are. We're never without that power. And so as we look at this moment together and take a look at our lesson summation of Whale the Tale, the essence of transformation can be applied to large and small situations and includes these steps. First of all, don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask for help from a power and source greater than your own. And then don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves and your pant legs and get right out into your situation and be there with it. Don't be afraid to wade into the unknown. Ed Corbin, you sent me that wonderful YouTube about the pilot boats that were available for what happened after the 9/11 tragedy happened. I've heard the story, but never in this detail. It's a story about what happened right after 9/11 happened. There were all these people on Manhattan Island who thought literally the world was coming to an end and everybody was about to die. And there was no way to get off the island. None. That's when you realize you're on an island. The subways were closed, the buses were down, the bridges were blocked off, and everybody ran to the shoreline to get off. They didn't know what else to do. They wanted to get off the island. Could you imagine? I know people who were there. That fear, I need to get out of here. What am I going to do? And this one particular story, representing many stories, was a man who was on a boat. He had a little boat, his fishing boat. And his wife said, honey, get home. I think World War III is happening right now. I want you home with the children and family. He said, I can't do it. People are calling. They're asking for help. I've got to respond. On instinct, he had to respond. And then he responded, no top down, there was no plan, nobody organized this. Thousands of boats got converging on the Manhattan Island. Do you know that day 500,000 people were rescued? Yes, that's the power that the 99% have. But we keep giving it away. We think we don't have power. We think somebody else is going to do it. We think it's going to come from the top down. There's no trickle down, nothing. It trickles up. I'm for trickle up economics, yes? That's the new theory. Trickle up, and out, not down. Give it to me. Those days are shot. Hold it. And don't be afraid to hold the tangible manifestation of what you're facing. Just to hold it. You ever just sit with somebody and give them a hug and hold them when they're going through travail or a difficult time? When your baby's fussy and can't sleep? Or, just be there. Hold it. Don't be afraid to hold it. And then, imparting, divine currents will move through you. You won't even need to try to figure out how to do it. It will be done through you, and miracles will absolutely happen. And finally, in the redirecting, redirect the energy and allow it to find its own way home. And then don't judge what choices are made after you've let it go. It's not your business. So remember, let's give our attention to the simple things that give us pleasure with the same fervor we give to the complex things that drive us all crazy. And remember, God's winking at you all the time. Don't miss the wink of God. Namaste.